Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Cartel Hour, where we do live tastings and discussions of all kinds of spirits with the people who make them, use them, and enjoy them. My name is Cameron Stevens.
And my name is Seth Benheim. Together, we're covering everything from familiar bottles to rare and exclusive releases from near and far away. If it's distilled, it's on the podcast.
Featured in Rolling Stone, GQ, Men's Journal, and more, we bring celebrity guests, master distillers, and industry veterans to chat about the latest in the spirits world. After Chris Fredrickson found plans for distilling equipment as a part of a long-lost family legacy, his interest in whiskey skyrocketed from being a connoisseur to a creator. Dubbed the Whiskey of the North, Traverse City is making waves not only with their unique climate for aging up there in Michigan, but also harnessing the cherry capital of the world to create products that do justice to the sweet and sour fruit. We're here to learn a little bit and drink a little bit, so grab a glass and let's enjoy. Welcome back to the Infusory for another episode of the Cartel Hour. My name is Cameron Stevens.
And my name is Seth Benheim, and today we are drinking Traverse City Whiskey.
Yes, indeed. And we're joined by Chris Fredrickson, who's been kind enough to join us. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what your connection to this brand is.
I'm a co-founder. I'm one of our distillers. I do have two business partners, Jared and Moti. The three of us started this brand together back in 2011, 2012. We all had our full-time professions. They were practicing attorneys. I was in management consulting. And over a few whiskeys one night, we birthed this idea called Traverse City Whiskey. I just had recently discovered a set of my great-grandfather's distilling patents that were patented during the Prohibition. They were just patents for distilling techniques. And this kind of created a snowball conversation that led into the, well, why the hell not? Let's give it a whirl. And
wait, so how did you discover this? I mean, because I'm picturing like some chest buried in an attic somewhere, something fun,
It's kind of like that.
Okay.
In not a chest and not an attic, but in a set of old wooden boxes out in our, my family, we've been cherry farmers for generations. And we were clearing out one of our buildings with just random family artifacts and came across these USPTO. Back in the day, they were just beautiful binders that would house these documents. Everything was wax sealed and signed. And we found my parents knew about this. My grandmother knew about this. And they said, yeah, of course. Like, you didn't know that your great grandfather was a chemical engineer and closet distiller? You didn't know that? And like, guys, what the hell? Come on. This is pretty cool information. And I shared that with my current business partners. And that's kind of how this all started moving.
They saw something you hadn't seen, which is like, this is a business opportunity, my man.
Yeah.
And so question for you, is that stuff on display at the distillery? Like, do you have that up in some way, or like the roots of this whole
original
thing?
patents? Yeah.
Yeah, so we have, they're actually here, but they're going to be part of the main decor, I guess, at our new facility that's currently under construction.
Oh, wow. So you guys are expanding into a third facility.
Yeah.
Yep. What's that facility going to be doing in terms of operation?
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick background on what's happening right now. So we have our 2,000 square foot distillery downtown Traverse City. It's where we have a 400 gallon Cote still. It's a pot column combo. And it's also where we have our tasting room and cocktail bar. And that's where most people engage with the brand at first. Pre-COVID, we hosted hundreds of facility tours out here at our production facility, which is where I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, we'll go through the aging, bottling, pretty much the whole end-to-end process. And now we're currently under construction of our third facility, which this is about 12,000 square feet. Our new facility is north of 35,000.
Oh, wow.
And,
nice. Okay.
Yep. We have on order 8,500 gallon fermentation tanks, a 24-inch Vendome column, and we're in the process of building the largest family-owned distillery north of Kentucky.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's a big undertaking. It's taken us quite a while to get this off the ground. We've owned the property now for almost 2 years, and the planning phase took. There's a lot that goes into building a distillery of that magnitude.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty fantastic.
Well, that's cool. One of the things that I'd like to ask you, Chris, right? So you found these patents and just you saw a business opportunity here, but clearly you had to have some background of your own in whiskey. I mean, if you had no liking of it or relation to it whatsoever, you probably would have been like, well, that's great, but that's clearly for somebody else. So what's your end of bringing, what you're bringing to the whiskey?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my background is not in whiskey. I was an enthusiast at the time. All of my friends from high school and college moved away to different countries around the world. And I started this little club at the time called what I called the Bourbon Trust. And I would go to Binny's in Chicago and just buy ridiculous bottles. I mean, today they're ridiculous bottles. And at the time they were, $80 or $100 a piece. And I would break them into samples and then ship them to all my friends. And we would do kind of like a Google Meet style platform where we would talk about the whiskey, and then we would have
preparing
a couple topics.
for COVID before you knew
Yeah,
COVID
you were
was
ahead
coming.
of the game.
You were ahead of the game, man.
about a decade early.
Yeah.
And I was getting into it, and I just noticed how much this spirit that I had a passion for it really kept us together as a group from high school and college. And it didn't last more than probably a year or so. And one of my business partners was a part of that group. And so we saw the bonding opportunity. We loved whiskey. We loved the variety, everything from Irish to Scotch to Japanese to bourbon whiskey. And we kind of we knew it's something we enjoyed. And, the old saying, if you love what you're doing, you never work a day in your life. I didn't love what I was doing. So I was chasing an opportunity to build something, to build a legacy, not necessarily be in the corporate grind.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so when you kind of discovered these patents, right, to a certain extent, it sounds like you were having to take over this historic legacy, right? So how did you balance the past with maybe what your guys' creative vision is with the brand going into the future?
Yeah. So the patents were not for a recipe. They were for outdated distilling techniques. And really the patents were merely a springboard for the idea generation for what became Traverse City Whiskey. And the opportunity that we had at the time back in early 2012 was a friend of a friend knew somebody at MGP who had access to 2008 bourbon barrels. And we kind of put all of our money into that opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because let's just do it and try it and see what happens. And we sold our first bottle July 7th of 2012. And by the end of the year, our sales trajectory it became obvious that the market wanted this. So we doubled down. We had another opportunity to buy 40 barrels. And it was kind of an all or nothing situation. So we doubled down, bought the 40 barrels, and that cash flowed our downtown distillery.
Perfect. So let me ask you this why don't we grab our
I'd
first
love
glass.
to kind of start digging
We're
into
starting
this as well.
with, I think this one. We're starting with the Traverse City 3+ year old straight bourbon whiskey. And my first question is an obvious one. So the first few barrels were MGP. So many craft distilleries today bootstrap by getting barrels, source barrels. They put their label on them. They sell them. My company does it. A lot of companies do it. They do it in the beginning and then use that capital to kind of age their own whiskey. The goal is their own whiskey, but they do it, they finance through different ways. So the stuff we're about to drink, distilled by you guys, I want to make the assumption. Is that right?
It is half right.
Half right. Okay.
Yeah.
Walk us through it. What are we about to drink?
So when we started up in 2012, this just happened to be a flavor profile that we adored. I mean, the 2008 MGP bourbon was fantastic, smooth, extremely versatile, and it was a versatile enough spirit that it appealed to a broad enough audience, but we loved it. And so this recipe is what we had continued distilling. Really, it was the base for our distillate for the first 4 or 5 years. We just went crazy distilling the same recipe in house. And back in 2018, I was convinced that by now we would have cut over and all of this would be 100% ours. And at that point, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but that's when the cherry whiskey took off. And the cherry whiskey utilizes the same recipe. And once that caught on fire, there was no physical way that our still was able to keep up with demand.
Got it.
So we were in the transition process. I was with pure conviction selling the fact that next year in 2018, we're going to be 100% self-sufficient.
Okay.
And we're not. We can't until we get our column installed. We won't have the ability, and it'll take a few years to build proper inventory to have true ownership over it. Yep. But until then, we are relying on MGP as a crutch, and I will tell you, they are a fantastic crutch.
Yeah. And so this first one, this bourbon, which I believe is 43%, 86 proof, is you say 50-50 yours and theirs, or?
Now it used to be. Now it's probably closer to 75 MGP, 25 TC, or 80-20 or something like that.
Got it. And are the mash bills somewhat similar on these two whiskeys, or can you speak to the mash bill at all, or?
Yeah, no, they're the same. I mean, it's the same recipe.
Got it.
Some is distilled in house, some is contract distilled by MGP, and that is really a result of back in the day wanting to maintain consistency, not evolving that product since then. But really, it's because the cherry whiskey is what it is, and again, we'll get to that. This is a recipe that we can't really toy with right now.
Got it.
Well, first of all, on the nose, I got a lot of vanilla, almost an herbal, like eucalyptus, almost like a really medicinal herbal
it's like a
note.
Bright floral thing happening, but it's interesting too because it plays really nicely with a deep char from the barrel too.
Yeah,
this is a very barrel forward whiskey overall. I mean,
I'm getting a lot of those sort of richer. It doesn't have the caramel.
No, it's not. It's actually not super sweet overall. No, it's not like dark kind of chocolate or anything. It's just a really nice, well-rounded barrel characteristic with some just brighter floral notes.
It's almost got a syrupy viscosity to it in the mouth. I get a little bit of a thicker whiskey, which I always like the thicker, more oily, more fatty whiskey bodies that deliver that mouthfeel, that flavor. But yeah, man, it's really, and when you taste it, interesting. It certainly brings a lot of flavor to the fold at 43.
Yeah, absolutely.
43, I would have
when
thought
it kind of sits back in the back of your mouth, you think, okay, well, this is maybe a little bit higher proof than it actually is, which is really nice. It speaks to the body of the whiskey. What's
sort of the goal with this whiskey, like with this entry level bourbon that you've got?
Entry level, yeah, yep. So the bourbon and the cherry are our entry level whiskeys. The bourbon, I wish I had a bottle closer to me right now, but this started off in a completely different package back in 2012, and it was designed to be a very approachable bourbon. The goal is to, as we bring people in and get who want to get to know the brand, this is usually the first stop because it ends up being the baseline for 6 of our spirits.
Got it.
And we're going to step through a couple of those this evening.
Well, and what I can appreciate about this is that to me, it's not dumbed down for an entry level. It's a little easy when you think about the mindset of introducing something entry level that just go straight 40 and just kind of keep it nice and easy and simple. And there's enough complexity here on this one that it makes me kind of excited to see where the rest of the line goes. But it's, it's a solid B for me. It's like, it's not anything that like, is wildly divergent in any particular way, but it really kind of holds its own, especially kind of in those nice barrel characteristic and just the body overall.
The bourbon, I like is I'm like sitting here, I'm like thinking about how I'm tasting and feeling, and it really has a surprisingly long finish for 43%.
Yeah.
I would have thought this was in like the 46, 92, they call it the distiller proof, which honestly, I would love this at 46. Actually, just that extra 3% might make a difference for me. But I think I'm at like an 83, like an 84. Really, I would drink a lot of this quickly and almost dangerously easy to drink, which, maybe I personally, I'm the kind of drinker, which maybe sets the tone for where we're going to go with this tasting and in two of these bottles, which I personally like a little higher proof. So this may not be the first one I go for, but if you don't like those really hot, fiery, robust, barrel-proof whiskeys, this is a great option. And I really think that's sort of the difference. And I love when a brand really gives a little bit of everything, which I think we're going to get into that with the whole cherry thing, like, which we've touched on, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
There's some fun stuff happening here. I'm excited to see where this goes. And I love rye whiskey too. So I think as we move forward, we're going to touch on the rye whiskey.
Yes,
next.
the North Coast Rye, 45% here. So
North
bumped
Coast
up a little bit.
I like North Coast.
Yeah, so tell me what's the story behind this one?
So the North Coast Rye. The North Coast Rye is a blend of two different mash bills. One is the traditional 95.5 MGP mash bill, which again we distilled, and the other 50% of it is our 100% rye.
Oh, cool.
And yep, all the grain is sourced between Michigan and Wisconsin. One thing that I wanted to dive into, or I could dive into now or later, it doesn't matter, but while a lot of people use the word source with MGP, we like to use the word contract produce, because MGP is, well, with the barrels that we have from MGP, when they do produce, they produce the product and then they ship the barrels to us and they're aged here. And why that's important or relevant to the conversation is our temperatures, unlike so many other distilleries around the country, it gets cold in here. During the middle of the winter, our rack house, it's a 4x4 concrete wall setup with a wood rack system, and an entire layer of ice will build on the block wall. And so the barrels under our roof will endure an extremely aggressive shift in temperature all year round. So we have a fire door separating the rack house from the distillery, and that it is a constant flux of both air, pressure, and temperature. And our moniker, or our slogan, I guess, is the whiskey of the North. And that's North Coast Rye, whiskey of the North. What that means to us, though, is that everything in our process endures a much harsher climate than anything, say, in Indiana or Kentucky or Tennessee or wherever, right? And what's unusual about that climate impact is the barrels, because of the it's like the balance of atmosphere. And what that leads to is a lower proof in the barrel. So in this climate, alcohol evaporates before water. Yeah. Which is not always the case. And
the hotter drier is always going to be that, in Texas, they'll see the ABV go up in the barrel because of the dryness, or like Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, those states, especially at the lower elevations, you're going to see a dramatic increase. And the water is actually evaporating before the actual alcohol itself. And so I will chime in and just say that this rye whiskey, it drinks like, just to make a comparison for those that haven't tried this or heard about this brand, you probably have heard of Whistle Pig, and this drinks a lot like that 6-year rye they put out, the Piggyback. It reminds me of that tremendously. And I want to emphasize the point you're making here, Chris. The fact that while you buy from MGP, you age the life of those barrels for however long they age in Michigan. That's totally, it's not going to even come close to something that's aged there in Indiana or in Kentucky or in some other parts of the world, or even in California.
Well, it's not only an important distinction from obviously the product itself and how it finishes, but I have to imagine that a lot of the folks that are purchasing this, they do it because they have pride in this particular area. You know, I mean, they're buying from the North because they live in the North and they want to represent and they want to have something that's authentic to that area. So I think it hits on multiple fronts. So what do you like about this, Chris? I mean, I'm happy to give my thoughts at a certain point, but I'd love to know because it's very different than the bourbon.
Yeah. So the idea behind the marriage of the 100% rye and the 95.5 was to tease out butter and tease out spice and find that harmonious balance between the two. You know, some ryes are super pepper forward, spicy. Others are more buttery. And the goal with the North Coast rye was to kind of find that sweet spot in the middle.
He liked it. He's pouring more. I could see.
I did actually quite like this.
Have we established if you're a rye guy yet, Cameron?
Well, what's interesting, and maybe I can talk about this in relation to what I'm tasting here, because I think a lot of the super peppery ryes can turn a lot of people off. And this is not that. And it goes so far away from that peppery rye that many people come to associate it with, which if I was blind tasting on this, I'm not sure I'd immediately just jump out and pick this out as a rye. To me, I actually get some really, really lovely zesty notes, kind of lemon, orange.
Orange on there.
Exactly. It's a little bit like perfumey as well. I love what you're talking about, that buttery mouthfeel, because it's not just, it doesn't just sit in that fashion. It's not just a way to describe the mouthfeel, but there's like a breadiness to it as well, which I quite like. And I think maybe if we're talking in the realm of ryes, this is more in the direction that I do quite like. I think it's quite good, man.
No, I like it a lot.
You sound like a rye guy to me.
Yeah, I think he's a rye guy. No, but here's my distinction. It's devoid of the vanilla and caramel that I expect from a bourbon, which gives me an automatic inclination that this is a rye. And the mouthfeel and the finish and the flavors I'm tasting now, even after a couple minutes of setting my glass down, I'm getting that rye influence. I know this is a rye. I can tell this is a rye, like point blank. I wouldn't even mistake this for a high rye bourbon. This is very good rye. I'm at like an 86, 87.
I'm at an easy B plus.
This is a rye I would drink all the time. This is a rye. I mean, I know this is not a super expensive product by any standards. This is a rye that you should have if you can get this product, which you can, caskcartel.com. Find this product, and this is a easy pickup. I would make a beautiful cocktail with this too. And this is at 45% 90 proof. So it's a step up from the bourbon proof. Any reason for that extra jump in proof, or just tasted better that way? Or
Yeah. Every time we're very methodical about defining proof per product, and we step through it probably half a dozen times at different proofs on different days. And it's not it's not a dictatorship with defining proof. It's we bring the brain trust around the conference table downstairs, and we step through every option and then tease out down to the exact proof where the barrels find the best balance.
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I'm really
I do too.
I really like the smoothness of it. And I know you say you tried to edge out that spice a little bit, but I like whatever is in there in terms of that rye spice. I actually think it's quite nice. And that's a really easy drinking rye. It doesn't, I would really stay away from adding ice to that. I would really want to drink it neat.
I don't even know if I would cocktail it, to be honest with you, because usually when I look for a rye for cocktails, I look for something really heavy, peppery, spice forward to kind of cut through. This is a sipping rye for me personally, but
yeah, it seems a little finer than the bourbon. Seems like something I would
that you could make a mean old fashioned one.
I would make a drink with that. This one is a little bit finer in that sense, but
absolutely.
also I would make a Manhattan with that. Like it would be a kick-ass Manhattan.
For sure.
It's got the proof. I think it's good. But I would work with that all day.
Great, perfect Manhattan for sure.
What's the best drink you guys have at the cocktail bar in downtown Traverse City?
The best or the most popular?
Your favorite and the most popular.
And then the most popular. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorites is a Boulevardier.
Oh yes. Yep.
Yeah. And so that's the base for that is the Rye Whiskey. Other than that, the most popular by far is the whiskey, the cherry whiskey sour.
Ooh,
I could see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cherry sour.
And I'll get more into it in a little bit, but Traverse City first of all, Traverse City is the cherry capital of the world. And also Traverse City is home to a huge wine country. So having so many winos in town and trying to bridge the gap between wine and whiskey, the cherry whiskey lives in that world. Got it.
Well, what are we on to next?
We are on to the Barrel Proof Bourbon, which is the black label.
Is this one 58.3%?
Is that what it says?
That's what it says on here.
They're both 58.3. Huh?
Yeah, I think that's a significant step up here.
Yes,
we're making a jump.
0 to 60 here.
Yeah, the Barrel Proof Bourbon. So this is going to be just the full proof bourbon that we were drinking earlier. The age statement of the Triple X, the Navy label, is between 3 and 4 years, and the age statement of the Barrel Proof Bourbon with the black label is right around 5 years,
Gotcha.
5 to 6. The Barrel Proof Bourbon that we're about to sample was submitted to the 2019 and 2020 the San Francisco International Wine and Spirits Competition.
Yep.
And last year it took a double gold best in category.
Woo.
And this year it took a gold.
Very good. Yeah.
Well, already that nose is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one I haven't even sipped it yet because you can just literally just dig through everything that's happening on the nose.
I'm a lot more excited by the nose on this than the regular bourbon. And again, that speaks to my palate, my taste preferences, which is again, very distinct to me, but
then again, you see what the water does. Just simply adding a couple years and then cutting it with water down to the bottle proof. This nose is significantly more robust, and the flavor carries on with that.
There's baking spices in here. There's a little bit of like a little like coriander, like almost.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone into really rich charred barrel, borderline on like leather and tobacco on this one on the nose. I mean, it gets really deep in there.
I do find a brightness though. I do find a brightness on this. I'm going in. Oh yeah, the leather on the palate for sure.
Absolutely. And it's grippy. It's really, really grippy. I mean, the last couple, the original bourbon was kind of oily. We've now reached a point where this is like soaking into your taste buds. It has staying power here with that extra proof.
Oh yeah.
And what's great about it is there's I don't get a significant amount of heat here. I mean, anytime you're starting to get into these higher proofs, I'm always wary of anything that might be distracting from what the flavors are here. And I can really appreciate the fact that this is a very clear whiskey for all of its flavors,
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, I was drinking.
Yeah, no, it's good.
This has got a really nice finish. I mean, really, really comes full circle at the end and brings home a lot of that. Did you say molasses?
No, but I'm starting to get into the kind of caramel, vanilla, kind of tiramisu-y kind of.
And we just drank rum 2 nights ago together.
Almost like
so
pie, a little bit of pie
I'm kind of
action
like,
too.
My rum vocabulary is still running fresh, but this does have a molassesy sort of almost like tiny balanced bittersweet thing at the end. I love it.
Yeah, it's like brown sugar, burnt sugar or something like that.
Yeah. This for me is leagues above the regular bourbon.
Absolutely.
I'm really liking this. I'm at that 89, 90. We're getting higher up. This is really, really good. And I think the next one you're going to like, this next barrel pick, the Triple X that you guys do. And Chris, tell us, the Triple X, is that still, because for those on YouTube that are looking at the video version of this podcast, we do have a full 750 of the limited edition Traverse City Straight Bourbon Triple X whiskey, barrel proof, bottle number 691, 58.34%.
That bottle's an OG. That was our first pass at the barrel proof bourbon, and we have since retired that product. So if you see it, buy it, because it doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It was reinvented into this signature edition, the black label that we just tried. But this is older whiskey, distilled back in 2011, bottled in 2016, and we don't even have any of it. I mean, maybe we have a case, but it doesn't exist anymore. And it's you can definitely taste and nose the difference in the just kind of the evolution of the mash bill. Did you guys notice have you tried it yet?
No,
I have not. No,
I've just
not
got
gotten
my
in there
glass.
yet.
We've just about to get to it.
I wish I could join you.
Oh yeah.
Well, Seth likes to do this thing where he pulls out these like weird rare bottles when he's drinking with somebody from the distillery, and I know it's not like a haha, I have this and you guys don't have it anymore.
No, it's just what I have.
It's a little bit like that.
It's just what I have. Like I
yeah, Seth, we get it.
We have this library of whiskey, so really we go back to bottles again and again and again, but we never actually finish them because you never spend a whole night drinking just one bottle. I mean, people come by and we'll pull out 6, 8, 10, 12, 15 bottles. And even if there are 10 people in the room, we still get a little bit of everything to everyone at like a quarter or half ounce pour because we're tasting so much. So the beauty is that even a bottle that, if this was pulled in 2016, that means I probably bought it at 16 or 17.
You had foresight. Let's put it that way.
It was a beautiful looking bottle. I mean, these ones, the last two, the barrel proof and the Triple X, they both have a wax dip, which I'm always a fan of. But yeah, I've had this. Obviously, you can see the bottle. I've had half of it almost. I love this one. Yeah,
it's a lot sweeter. It's a lot sweeter to me, I think, at least on the nose. I mean, the last one, the barrel just jumped out at me. And
I will say that
this is a little marshmallowy on the nose.
While you guys are nosing and prepping for a taste, I will say that I do the same thing when hosting guests. I mean, most of my shelves at home, I probably have one bottle of Traverse City whiskey on the shelf, and the rest of it is our oddball bottles that I've collected from around the world. Usually stuff that people haven't heard of yet, or just from these weird, funky distilleries. And in my experience, it's the most fun to share stuff like that is just unknown and talk through the story of where it was purchased and maybe something about the distillery, and just offer that experience and knowledge to people who may not know about it.
He's like me.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
That's what we do. We'll turn the camera in a minute. You see the bar on the left, but the whole concept is, I think maybe that's true of a lot of distillers or brand owners or something. It's like you go to our houses or our offices and stuff, and we just carry everyone else's brands. It's not just like we're sitting there drinking our own stuff all day long. Like we're all students of the industry, and we're all sort of learning from everyone, especially in craft. It may not be true of like Jimmy Russell or Eddie Russell or whoever, but
well, I mean, it's like one of those things when you are expanding your palate, you're tasting new things, it gives you inspiration for the things that you're making too. And it gives you, even if it's not something like, oh, I'd love to do something like that, it's more just like, wow, this industry and what it creates is so wildly diverse, and it just sort of spurs everybody on,
Yeah, it's just a fun thing to do, is to collect bottles from your travels and all that. And I'm the same exact way, man. This has like that hint of clove that I'm getting. It really
it's like
I remember that.
It is like steeped brandied orange peel, and a little bit of baking spices, but you're totally right on the clove.
There's brandy on the nose for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's almost borderline slightly vinous too. That kind of mixes in with that marshmallow.
Almost feels like a wine. I'd get thrown for a wine finish if I didn't know better. But the cool part is when I first put my nose in there, it was really hard to decipher, and I've been just stirring it and holding it and stirring it and really aerating the glass, and it's really evolving and getting a lot more flavorful on the nose. So I'm going in here, guys. Let's do this.
So, Chris, can you tell us why the change to what this particular line is in its current incarnation?
Yeah, so it was just, for us, it was learning. It was evolution. It was the packaging with the white label. It was a little difficult to read. And we realized that if we were going to do a barrel proof, anything, the single barrel proof bourbon couldn't live alone. And so it had, I guess we've been in the process of creating a family for it. And so the barrel proof doesn't live alone. It now lives in the signature series, which includes the barrel proof bourbon, the barrel proof rye, the barrel proof port barrel finish, the barrel proof wheat. And then yesterday we hosted our first live virtual event. Do you guys know Bourboner and Breaking Bourbon?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Blake and Nick joined us yesterday for the release of our barrel proof cherry whiskey.
I saw a picture of this on Instagram.
Yeah. So we launched that yesterday, live. Actually, it went live. It launched today, but we did a sneak preview last night. And now in the signature edition, now we have a family of barrel proof expressions, not just the one white label.
Is that available online for people to find? They probably may not get a Cask Cartel yet, although I'm sure we'll work on that.
Point, yeah.
But for those,
I'm definitely interested in the port finish and the wheat too.
I'm interested in the barrel proof cherry. Barrel proof cherry sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But where would they find the barrel proof cherry?
Well, I haven't had the regular cherry yet. So.
I know, but anything barrel proof, you got my full attention. My ears perk up.
I hate to tease the barrel proof cherry because it is a gift shop only expression.
Oh my God.
I know.
Having something as a distillery exclusive available only there, it's a great thing for your customer base. It's really cool. So
we really want to have a way to get people here and share the true essence of the brand. And we do have a lot of distribution. We are distributing in 26 states, primarily with the bourbon, the bottle proof bourbon and the cherry whiskey. But having something special like the barrel proof cherry will hopefully swoon our friends from around the Midwest and even out to California, up here to little Traverse City.
There you go.
Well, that's the thing. I preach this on every episode, especially with the craft distillers, is there's something special about distillery exclusives. If I've made an effort to go see over 100 distilleries in my life, and the purpose of that was to search out things that existed there. So when I go to a distillery, I'm always looking for what can I get here and now. I made it out here. I'm walking through the front door. Give me something that the guy who goes to Total Wine or the liquor store down the street, give me something they can't get because I'm here. I made it out. I made the effort. And
you made the effort. Exactly.
Yeah. In my business, I'm really looking forward to doing that as we get our licenses here in California and doing that. And I think the whole, industry is kind of 50-50 on this. Like the big guys, like you go all the way out to Buffalo Trace, they don't have anything there except Buffalo Trace. There's they have like dozens of products, none of them available. And the same is true of most of the, you can't find any of the good Kentucky products in Kentucky. And you're out there doing the Bourbon Trail, supporting the cause. It's a problem that I think exists. But I think craft, on the other hand, guys like
they
you
get it right.
Do it right.
Absolutely.
I love that. And definitely, do more of it, man. Do single barrels for yourself. Yeah. Be the guy who does your own single barrels just for the distillery. That's the best.
Hell yeah.
This is awesome, by the way. I think dry and gritty and still packed full of flavor.
I might like the new. one a little bit better.
No, see, I'm at a 91, 92 on this one. I'm more in the A- range on this. I really like this bottle. Maybe I'm playing into the fact that it's rarer.
You might be.
Having an effect.
Side by side, I mean, they're both quite good. What's interesting is they're both still different.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, there was just these like really rich, dark kind of tobacco-y, leathery notes that just came out, and spicy notes in this one, the Black Label Barrel Proof, that I really, really liked. So it edges it out for me, which I suppose is a good thing considering this is the thing that people can actually get these days.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, this is the one that has been hinted at the entire time. We're finally diving in and trying the cherries.
Yeah, and at this point, do I eat? So Chris was kind enough to send us the premium cocktail cherries in a little jar here.
That's cool.
Should we eat one of these cherries?
You can absolutely, yeah. If you're looking for the amuse-bouche for the cherry whiskey, by all means. Man. Yeah, I brought.
Sure, I'm hungry. Let's go.
I brought a spoon as well.
Oh, I don't have a spoon.
We have no way of getting it.
Just reach in with my hand. I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Do it.
Oh, I did it. All right. For those on YouTube, you saw me. Don't worry. I sanitized like yesterday, so we're good. Oh.
Did you get it all over yourself?
A little bit. A little bit.
That will happen.
I am eating it. Okay, so wow. That is pretty good, actually. I don't know how many cocktail cherries I've eaten.
Well, this is the cherry capital of the United States.
It's a really good cherry, though. Like I'm not like a maraschino cherry guy or anything like that, but that's pretty good.
So do you guys know, Luxardo?
Yeah, sure. I use a lot of Luxardo and Amarena cherries here at the bar.
We used to use a ton of Luxardo cherries at our bar. And my father's a third-generation cherry farmer. We are in the cherry capital of the world. Why on earth are we buying Italian cherries, is what we said.
Yeah, fuck it.
And
it's aggressive, but okay.
I thought that's where he was going. I'm sorry. Maybe I jumped ahead there.
Beat me to the punch. No, but it just, when cherries are our livelihood, why on earth would we source them? Why would we buy imported cherries? So
exactly.
A few years ago, we came up with a recipe with a neighboring orchard and co-op, and we created something that is not only, in our opinion, superior to Luxardo, but a little bit more affordable and made right here in the U.S. So the cherries themselves are a unique variety of sour cherry called a Balaton. And the reason why the Balaton sour cherry is special is because of the bite. And I always refer to the bite or the crunch as very elegant. It's not too mushy, it's not too firm, but especially when it sits in a cocktail for a few minutes and then you fish it out with your fingers. You have a boozy cherry that is just delightful to bite into.
Yeah, it still had that crunch
it
for
was
sure.
Almost just tannic a little bit too, which was nice.
It was also a little tart. I thought it was a little tart. I give the cherry an A.
I would love to make a cocktail with it because I do think some of the other, Luxardo, it's very sweet. And I'm happy to see something that is it's more balanced. It's got the sweet and tartness and a little bit of sourness, but it's not sour really. It's just, it's very different. And I would love to see that in a cocktail. So there you go. It's worth getting my hands sticky for. There you go.
Yeah. I haven't had a lot of, the bar fruit, the garnishes. I don't generally eat them.
Right.
But this I would eat. I would fish this out and make an effort to get this with my straw, or like ask the bartender for a spoon and they'd be like, why? I'd be like, shut up and just give me the spoon. And then I'd get the cherry and I'd be happy.
There you go.
Well, I'm smelling this cherry whiskey and it is really, really exploding with aromas and the note. It really,
well, it's quite cherry forward. So what I'd love to know is...
I get the whiskey, though. I still get the notes.
Exactly. So, maybe, are you guys the first people to do a cherry whiskey?
We are not.
Okay.
There's been a couple other shops around the country that have done it. Some are authentic like us. Others are taking the flavoring route.
Got it.
Yep.
However, this is the first cherry whiskey from the cherry capital of the world.
So,
and
how is it made? How do you produce this product?
Yeah. So what we do is it's all based on a blended batch. And so we'll dump a very particular set of barrels that have this flavor profile or aroma, blend them together, and then we steep these are not the same cherry varieties. The cacio cherries are a Balaton cherry, and the cherries that we steep into the cherry whiskey are Montmorency sour cherries. So
Okay.
it's a more common fruit. It's probably the most popularly grown fruit in northern Michigan, most common grown fruit in northern Michigan. But the reason for that is it's more of a culinary cherry. I mean, it's the additive of so many different food groups because it plays so well in cherry pie and whatever it might be.
Are these cherries larger than the Balaton cherries? Are the Balatons more akin? They're both red cherries, I assume, not black cherries or of that other variety. But the Balatons, are these like more sweet or larger in size or something like that? Or
Yep. So the way that cherries are measured are in millimeters, and the Balaton sour cherry, the grade, they're all grade A. They have to be grade 95 or above.
Nice.
And they're all 2022s. And the Montmorency sour cherries that we steep into the whiskey are something like 15 17s or 16 18s. They're a smaller cherry. They're a lot more plentiful. The Balatons are relatively unique. The Balatons were birthed in Hungary back in the 1800s and then brought to northern Michigan. And so they're a pretty unique variety, whereas the Montmorency sour cherries are common fruit grown here.
All right, we're going in. We're going to try this cherry whiskey.
Let's do it.
And sorry, did we talk about the whiskey? Is this bourbon? Is it rye?
Yeah, what's the base?
It smells
spirit?
like bourbon.
Yeah, so it is the same bourbon mash bill as the Navy label, the Triple X bottle proof that we tried. The difference is the age statement. So where the bourbon is 3 to 4 years, the cherry whiskey is 2 to 3.
Got it. Well, I'm not sure even where to start on this. I will preface this by saying, Chris, a full disclosure, when I heard cherry whiskey, I was scared. As a, somewhat of a purist, when you start kind of messing with things, I'm always like, oof, did they do it right? Is this going to be super sweet? Is it going to be cloying? Is it going to drink like syrup?
It doesn't drink like syrup.
None of the things that I just mentioned.
I thought the rye and the bourbon, the first two with that watering down, was a little like, this is really not it's not any thicker than, it's kind of an interesting, I'm almost curious as to how you strain or filter this. Because clearly you have. It's not a.
Well, if you look at it, it almost looks like rosé.
It's a clean pour. It's a very clean pour. It's a dark rosé. It's like, have you seen those Pinot Noir rosés they're doing now?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's become a trend too on a whole nother level. But this does have that dark rosé look.
To speak to that, so the process is we take the Montmorency sour cherries, we put them in like a cheesecloth, and then dip that into the batch of bourbon at roughly like 72 proof. Now you notice this is a 70 proof bottle. We do add a hair of water to bring it down at the end, but it steeps at a lower proof, and almost within hours, the color from the cherry bleeds off into the whiskey. So if you put the bourbon and the cherry whiskey side by side, they're obviously a very different color. Within probably 4 or 5 hours, most of the color that the cherry is going to share with the batch is there. And so we steep 10 pounds of fruit for every 2 barrels in every batch. Usually there's 6 barrel batches, so we'll put around 30 30 pounds of fruit into a tank, let it sit for as many days as it takes. It can be anywhere from 3 to 10, depending on the fruit and how much it's giving. Past that, we just pull out the cheesecloth. It's a pretty decent sized bag, and we pull it out and discard the fruit and bottle the whiskey.
Is there like a special filtration you use or anything to kind of weed out any particles or sediment or anything like that?
Yep. So all the whiskey, including the barrel proof and the bourbon and the rye, everything's run through a two-stage cartridge filter. First 10 micron, followed by 5 micron, and then through the filler. And past that, you're not going to get much particulate, but it happens, but not often.
Yeah. In the world of flavored whiskey, this is as good as any I've had. It's an A.
Yeah.
In terms of like whiskey and like drinking regular whiskey, this is certainly something I would use this as an ingredient in an old fashioned. I would use a half ounce of this if I was out of cherries, and I would use a half ounce of this and maybe like, another ounce or ounce and a half, depending on how big the drink is, of one of your other bourbons. Like this would be a really nice sweetener to the cask strength, to kind of go hand in hand to make a real high proof cocktail. But really, I would love to know how you would use this, or how you'd recommend the average person to use this.
In your customers, because you said there's a lot of overlap with the wine drinkers.
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, the cherry whiskey sour is our most popular cocktail, but the other we try to bring people into the classics, right? Like a classic Manhattan or a classic old fashioned, and the second and third most popular cocktails in house are the cherry Manhattan and cherry old fashioned.
And for the sour, is there any recipe you want to promote in terms of how one could make the cherry bourbon sour at home?
Yep. So I will say the key ingredient to the sour is the homemade sour mix, which for us is a ratio of 50%. No, it'd be 40% lemon, 40% fresh squeezed lemon, 5% lime, 5% orange, 50% water, all blended together. So you've got your sour mix. Start by muddling a wedge of an orange and lime with simple syrup with a half ounce of simple, an ounce and a half of the American Cherry Edition, put on ice, top with the sour mix, depending on how big the glass is, and then drizzle with a cocktail cherry and a light cherry syrup.
Awesome. That is and then a more complex.
Well, if it's that popular, I imagine it's not something easy to whip up.
It sounds really good. I can see why that's so popular, because that's not a one-step, two-step thing. That's you got to make a what's it called? A juice blend there, and then you got to muddle something, and you got to add some sugar. You got to. It's good. But I think even still, this with a little bit of the regular bourbon for me, with a little bit of, any kind of a sour mix or a sour thing would be really fucking tasty too.
You know what I would do with the cherry whiskey is use it as a really nice aperitif. Like you're sitting down to dinner and you pour everybody just like a little ounce and everybody's sipping on it.
Neat.
And neat. I do it
out of the fridge.
No.
Not like a little bit cooler?
No, well, if it was maybe cellared at cellar temperature or something like that. Yeah, but I see, you're sitting down to a nice meal, and everybody gets a little bit of that to start out. It's kind of, and because it happens to bridge this really interesting gap between kind of fruit forward and still a really nice whiskey backbone. I'm not sure how much, I'm not sure if I would really just kind of sip on a bottle of it. It's definitely a lot but it's versatile in its uses. And it makes sense to be coming out of the cherry capital,
Is there anything not up here that you want to speak to in terms of other products you guys make that we didn't really cover, that you just want to make a little shout out to in terms of, I know there's more products you guys make that we didn't taste tonight, but
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that I will call out right now that is not a distillery exclusive, that we recently had to create an in-house rule on. Our production crew every day is entitled to a shift drink. So after work, everybody goes together from the production facility to the still house and is entitled to, I think it's probably 3 drinks per week or something like that. And we recently created a rule that it doesn't make the barrel proof rye off limits, but we are adding a surcharge to it because our inventory of barrel proof rye was getting depleted so quickly by our production crew that that we kind of had to put a stake in the ground and say, guys, or people, enjoy this, but be mindful that we don't have more aged barrel proof rye. So the barrel proof rye, I mean, it's something that we do enjoy a lot in house. It is in distribution in California and throughout a lot of the country, and it's very similar to the bourbon proof, but of course it's just a very different spicy, buttery finish.
And that's the 100 mixed with the 95.5 at barrel proof?
At barrel proof.
Awesome.
Yep. I think I know where to find that. I'm going to go buy one.
I would very much say that's a good pickup.
Yep.
So awesome. Well, Chris, obviously we've talked a lot about the current lineup. We've talked a little bit about where you're expanding into with the lineup. We've talked about where you're expanding into from a facility standpoint and how you guys are growing. Like, what do you kind of want to leave people with in terms of what's next for Traverse City?
Yeah. What does the future hold?
Yeah. So what the future holds beyond production and what we talked about in terms of the lineup, this fall and I'm just planting the seed here, but this fall we've recently withdrawn our port barrel finish from our core lineup, and the port barrel finish is now end of life, similar to how the white label XXX barrel proof is end of life. And we are reinventing the port barrel finish as part of a series called the Finishing Series. So without getting into too much detail, we are doing the same bourbon rested in not tawny, but ruby port wine barrels. Mm-hmm. We're doing our high rye finished in a different type of wine cask, and then our 100% rye finished in a Cabernet Franc wine cask. And
beautiful.
Okay.
We're doing this as kind of a pre-holiday drop. We're going to have a pretty strong allocation in states like California and throughout the Midwest and out in New York and down in Florida. And our finishing series, it's a more premium take on what we believe different varieties or mash bills of whiskey should be finished in local, well, with the exception of the port, local wine casks. We're not just going to do the same thing over and over and over for decades and expect the same results and building a bigger audience. Let's just have, like the barrel proof cherry, let's just have fun. We joked about it for 3 or 4 years, and we're like, oh, you guys, now we're going to make the barrel proof cherry because it's so not controversial, but it's like, it's kind of an oxymoron, like a barrel proof infused whiskey. That's not really, it's not really a thing. And we tried it and we're like, oh, this is pretty damn good. And so,
well, you're releasing what you like. I think it sounds like to me, you guys are you're finding what you guys like, and then you're putting it out there. And if the world likes it, great. If they don't, you'll cut it. But at the same time, you're having fun with it. And the fact that you're not taking it that seriously is like kind of
that is the point.
The beauty of it. That's the beauty of it.
Absolutely.
I love it. I really want to find a time, if I make it to Michigan, to make it up to see you guys and come visit and come try and buy the barrel proof cherry and come hang out with you, man.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Cause I will say, this has been a blast. It's been a fun tasting. And
this is fun whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole lineup, everything has its own thing to offer. And it was an absolute pleasure to taste through it with you, Chris.
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure. Thank you for taking time out of your evening.
Of course. Thank you.
When, and I don't want to say if, I want to say when you make it to Traverse City, the door's open. You'd come move into the distillery here for a few days. We've got a cot and a hammock over here.
Done. These are fun, unique products that are not going to break the bank, and that's the cool part. And all of these, a lot of these, I believe, are available on caskcartel.com.
Yep. Absolutely. We'll put links to all of them so you can check them out and purchase.
You find yourself in Michigan, get out there and go see one of these facilities. And Chris, thank you so much for spending the evening and drinking with us. This has been an absolute joy. Cheers, buddy.
All right. Cheers, man.
All right.
Thanks, fellas.
Hello, everyone. Cameron and Seth here. Just a few more things before we wrap up. First, you can always head on over to cartelhour.com for the show notes, which will include links to all the spirits mentioned and, of course, consumed on the podcast.
Absolutely. If you're interested in purchasing any of the spirits mentioned on the podcast, go ahead and click any of the links to be taken directly to those spirits or visit caskcartel.com. They are America's largest online premium spirits marketplace and have been featured in Rolling Stones magazine, Men's Journal, The Wall Street Journal, Forbes, MarketWatch, and many others.
Yeah, they are awesome and super mobile friendly too. They're a fantastic resource to search through different types of spirits, and their platform is easy and straightforward. If you don't love driving around to every single liquor store in town and hoping they have what you're looking for, Cask Cartel is certainly the best e-commerce spirits platform I've personally come across.
Couldn't agree more. And you can find them on social media at Cask Cartel, and you can find us at Cartel Hour for the podcast, where you can find information about upcoming episodes and live tastings at the Infusery.
And speaking of those live tastings, for those living in or visiting the Los Angeles area that are truly intrigued, if you want to drink along with us, we would love to have you come and enjoy an evening at the Infusery to drink through a carefully selected assortment of spirits.
We offer custom flights and have a robust library of over 700 spirits to choose from. Visit our website for more information on how to become a member of the Cartel Club.
And if you're a spirits brand that would like to be featured on the podcast, please email us or send us a direct message on Instagram.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and remember to always drink responsibly
and in good company.